So in my leadership class, I've learned a lot of things, some that I'd already heard before and some that I just needed to be reminded of. But one thing that I seem to consistently come back to is the need to not compare myself or my leadership or my mission with somebody else's. In some of the books that I read, they talked about how we have to be less concerned about society's opinion of us, and get comfortable with public opposition. Now, as a youth pastor, I teach this all the time, right? Like, don't worry about what your peers think, and don't be overwhelmed by the pressure that culture puts on you. And I want to be able to encourage them and say, hey, this gets easier as you get older. But it really doesn't, because if God calls us to something, he calls us to lead something or be a part of something, obviously the gospel, it's bigger than ourselves, then we have to be willing to focus on that and not everybody else's opinion, not what everybody else tells us we should be doing or shouldn't be doing. The other part on that falls in line with that for me is I want everybody to be pumped about what I'm pumped about. And as an extrovert, I feed off of people. So when someone's not excited, it's difficult for me to be excited. And I think that may be part of my downfall, right? Like, as a church leader, we always are wanting to catch everybody and get them all involved and not feel like they're on the fringes or I don't know, just distant and not involved. We want them all involved. And I think it's tough for us when someone doesn't have the same passion or the same heart to lead something that we're a part of or to be a part of something we're a part of. So as a leader, we need to not worry about those that are disinterested. Look at Jesus, right? He didn't spend a ton of time with people that didn't have time for him. Those that listened, he invested in. They began to implement and practice what he was telling them to do. Those that weren't interested walked away and made their own choice. And I think that we take that as a personal offense, but Jesus didn't. So why should we? So yeah, I think I need to, as a leader, and we need to as leaders, work on not being overwhelmed by people's affirmation. Like, we don't need to be affirmed all the time, and we don't need to be in stride with culture all the time. Obviously, we're not going to be. But then we also don't need to worry because we don't get those affirmations, or because someone's not as excited about something as we are. We can't look down on them or feel like what we're doing isn't right. We need to keep moving and keep pursuing the mission that we've been given, and then let God work out the rest. So leadership is tough, but is entirely worth it. So we'll continue to lead on.